All right, welcome back. Hope you all had a great week. Today we're continuing our BCBA exam review, where we're going through a full BCBA exam, question by question, and breaking down the questions, how you should think about it on your actual exam. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. If you're looking for our proven study materials, please check out bcbastudy.com. We offer 2 full practice exams, a 5th edition task list study guide, and our combo pack, which comes with everything. That is our best deal. If you have any questions, comments, please let me know. I'm happy to help. Other than that, keep working hard, keep studying hard. Let's get to our questions. 21. Tony hosts board game night at his house every Thursday night. Each week, a different person gets to choose the game that will be played. When his friends arrive, Tony asks Cliff what game he would like to play. Cliff says, "I want to play Cards Against Humanity." What type of verbal operant is this? All right, the BCBA exam requires you to know a few things about verbal operants. You need to know what evokes them and what reinforces them. Those are the 2 main things. Okay, that's going to be your giveaway on the exam. In this case, this one's pretty easy considering we know what's going on, right? Tony is having a verbal exchange with Cliff. Tony asks Cliff what game he wants to play. Cliff says, "I want to play Cards Against Humanity." Tony asking Cliff is the verbal SD. Cliff responding is, "I want to play Cards Against Humanity." Okay. And then we assume we play Cards Against Humanity, right? This is a conversational exchange. So what type of verbal operant does this represent? Is this a mand? Well, ask yourself, what evokes a mand? A mand is evoked by a motivating operation. If you ask someone what they want and they tell you what they want in response to you asking them, that is not a mand. A mand is evoked by a motivating operation, not a verbal SD. Therefore, this is not a mand. Is it a tact? What's a tact? A tact is a label evoked by a nonverbal SD. So again, asking somebody to label something and then labeling it is not a tact. A tact is evoked by a nonverbal SD. This is why it's so important to understand why or what evokes these operants. Intraverbal, yes, intraverbal evoked by a verbal SD, a conversational back and forth exchange, does not have point-to-point correspondence, right? So here Tony has the verbal SD, Cliff responds, simple intraverbal, okay? And then D, transcription. What is transcription? We're transcribing something, essentially taking notes, okay? So the answer here is C, trying to drive home the point that you need to know what evokes your verbal operants and what reinforces your verbal operants for the exam. 22. You design a token economy for your client who receives 15 hours of service in-home per week. Tokens are delivered whenever your client mans appropriately at home. Now your client's rate of manding has significantly increased at home, but there is no plan in place at school. What should you do next? Okay, think about this scenario for a second. When you get open-ended questions like what should you do next, they're asking you to evaluate this question. Okay, so start thinking when you're practicing these type of open-ended questions. Start predicting the answer. Okay, what does your gut say about this answer? What does your analytic brain, what does your studying say about this answer? What kind of signals are going off? Well, the first thing that jumps out at me, right, we have 2 settings. Okay, and in each setting there's a different type of intervention going on. In one setting, we have this in-home token system that's increasing manding. And then in our other setting, there is no intervention. What do you think about when you think about a behavior increasing in one setting and not in another, okay, due to differing interventions? The first thing I think about is behavior contrast, right? When a behavior increases in one setting, if we don't change anything in the other setting, we can typically expect it to decrease in that other setting. So in this case, what's happening, right? What increases at home? Nothing changes in the other setting. What do we need to do next? Do we need to warn the members of the home about a possible extinction burst? Well, extinction, we know, we're withholding reinforcement, not occurring in this situation, right? We've changed this system. There's now this token system going on. Looks like reinforcement because manning is increased. So we're not worried about an extinction burst here. So we can eliminate A and we can eliminate D, okay? We're not withholding reinforcement at school. There's just no plan in place at school, right? What about B? Inform the school that manning may decrease at school. Yes, right? We're warning them of behavior contrast. It's increased at home due to an intervention change. Nothing's changed at school. Because it's increasing at home due to reinforcement, school, there will be not the same level of reinforcement. Manning may therefore decrease due to behavior contrast. B is our answer. What about C? Inform the members of home that Manning may decrease. No, Manning has obviously increased at home. Not something we need to worry about. Our answer here is B. Pretty straightforward behavior contrast question. 23. Tara works as a behavior analyst for several group adult homes in her area. The first thing Tara does at the beginning of each month is to go through each group home and evaluate the living conditions. This can include cleanliness, comfort, and amenities. What best describes the type of assessment that Tara is conducting relative to her clients? Okay, first thing we're asking ourselves with assessments, are we directly observing the client, okay, or are we not? Because if we're not, what can we eliminate? If we're not directly observing our client, we can eliminate direct assessments, and we can eliminate functional analyses. Both of those involve direct observation and interaction with our clients. In this case, what is Tara evaluating? She's evaluating conditions, cleanliness, comfort, amenities, not necessarily the client. So we can eliminate A, direct assessment, and D, functional analyses. We're not looking at the client, we're looking at other things. Now, are we doing an indirect assessment or an ecological assessment? Well, we know indirect assessments are what? Typically checklists, surveys, interviews, working with other members of the team, the parents, the caregivers, the group home manager, to figure out more about your client. In this case, though, what are we working with? Tara's just kind of working by herself, evaluating the environment. And when we evaluate the environment, what type of assessment are we doing? We're doing a C, an ecological assessment. 24, Peyton worked for 25 minutes earlier before earning a break. The BCBA wants him to be able to work for at least 30 minutes at a time. Yesterday, he worked for 20 minutes and 22 minutes respectively. What duration does Peyton for work on average? Be careful here, right? We have some data at the very beginning. Peyton worked for 25 minutes. Then we kind of jump around. The BCBA wants him to be able to work for at least 30 minutes at a time. Does that mean Peyton works for 30 minutes at a time? No, that's what the BCBA wants. That's his goal. Then we get more data. Yesterday, he worked for 20 minutes and 22 minutes. So we're looking at the data we have, right? We're looking at the duration on average. Now, if you're studying for your BCBA exam, you should know how to find an average. If you don't, go do that immediately, okay? You need to know simple calculations like finding averages, okay, finding percentages, right? So we know how to do that. We're going to add up all our data points and divide it by the total number, right? Or get the total amount of data and divide it by the number of data points. So you're really trying to figure out what are my data points, right? So we need duration. How many duration data points do we have? Well, we have 25 minutes, so 1, 20 minutes, 2, 22 minutes, 3. We have 3 data points. So what are we going to do? We're going to add up all our durations. We're going to get 25 plus 20 is 45. 45 plus 22 is 67. Don't be afraid to use a calculator. Don't be afraid to use a pen and pencil. That's why they give them to you. There's no shame in it, okay? And then we simply take 67 divided by 3, and we get 22 minutes. Pretty straightforward average question. You just need to be careful about what data you're using and don't just go blindly plugging numbers in. This 30 minutes is a distractor, okay? 30 minutes is not how long Peyton works for. That's our goal, but Peyton works for 25 minutes. He works for 20 minutes and 22 minutes. The 30 is not relevant to the data we're analyzing. 25, Teresa is preparing for her wedding. Her fiance and her are taste testing several menu options for the rehearsal dinner. The wedding planner brings the couple 5 different dishes. They each try a dish and pick their favorite. The dish that is selected is removed, and the remaining 4 dishes are placed back on the table. What type of preference assessment is this? First question we ask, okay? Preference assessments are almost never naturalistic. When they're naturalistic, it's very obvious they're naturalistic, okay? So you're going to be able to identify naturalistic assessments quickly. If they're not contrived, if we're not contriving anything, it's naturalistic. This is obviously contrived, okay? So we know it's not naturalistic. It's not D, free operant. So the main question we're asking ourselves for preference assessment is how many stimuli are we assessing? If I'm assessing a single stimulus, what kind of assessment is that? Well, that's going to be a single choice, right? Assessment, okay? What if I'm evaluating 2 stimuli? That's going to be a forced choice or a paired choice, okay? 3 or more, we now deal with the multiple stimulus, okay? So We have one stimulus is a single stimulus assessment, okay? Two stimulus is forced choice or paired choice. And then three or more is going to be multiple stimulus with replacement or multiple stimulus without replacement. Very easy rule of thumb, okay, to use. So how many stimuli are we looking at? We're looking at 5. So we know we're going to look at a multiple stimulus assessment. So with replacement, what are we doing? We are taking the item that is chosen, putting it back, and then replacing the other items that weren't chosen with new items. Stimulus without replacement, we're just removing the item that was chosen and putting all the other items back. What occurs here? The dish that is selected is removed, and the remaining 4 dishes are placed back on the table. That's simply multiple stimulus without replacement because we are taking the item that is chosen, not replacing it, okay, and leaving the other 4 items to be selected again. Our answer here is C. You overhear an RBT telling another RBT that the best way to identify reinforcers is by examining its effect on current behavior. Do you have any issue with this statement? Well, you should, okay? Read it again if you don't. Read it carefully. An RBT tells another RBT the best way to identify reinforcers is by examining its effect on current behavior. How do we identify reinforcers? How do we identify consequences? Okay, so we know there's an issue. So A, no, there's nothing wrong with this statement, is incorrect. B, yes, you can only identify a reinforcer if it increases current behavior. Well, now you're just saying the same thing, right? That the RBT is saying, and we know it's incorrect. Be careful on the exam, okay? They're going to use a lot of double speak, if you will, where they're going to give the answer choice differently than the question, and they're both wrong, okay? B, you're saying the same thing the RBT is. It's incorrect. C, yes, you identify reinforcers via preference assessments. Well, we know that's not true, right? Preference assessments identify potential reinforcers. Reinforcer assessments identify reinforcers. That leaves us with D. Yes, you need to look at the impact on future behavior, not current. Consequences affect future behavior. If we want to identify reinforcers, if we want to identify any consequences, we look at the effect on future behavior, not current. Sharon takes on 2 siblings after conducting a full assessment. The siblings have severe behaviors that Sharon wants to address immediately. She first researches possible behavior interventions that have been used in the past for these type of behaviors. Sharon is adhering to the dimension of what? So what is Sharon doing? Okay, Sharon wants to make sure she is staying relevant with her research. Okay, she's looking at behavior interventions that have been used in the past. So past behavior analytic research. When we adhere to past research or to behavior analytic principles, what dimension are we looking at? Well, applied is going to be meaningful, okay, behaviors, right? Now, this might be meaningful, but it's not necessarily what Sharon's worried about. She's worried about the interventions she's using, right? She's trying to adhere to the behavioral analytic principles, right? The behavior analytic concepts. So is it technological? Technological just means repeatable. You write it in a way where anybody who reads it can repeat it, okay? She's not writing it out to be repeatable as far as we can tell based on the information given. All we know is she wants to adhere to behavior interventions that have been used in the past, adhere to behavior principles, adhere to behavior analytic terminology. She is adhering to the dimension of conceptually systematic, okay? When we stick to behavior principles, when we stick to ABA, when we stick to behavior terms, we are ensuring we are conceptually systematic, okay? And then D, behavioral, right? Yes, this is behavioral, right? She's focusing on severe behaviors, okay, that she can address. However, we're worried about the researching possible behavior interventions, right? And so that there is being conceptually systematic. 28, a group of seniors decided they would play a prank on their high school. They filled the halls with bubbles and painted seniors 22 on the school sidewalk. The principal ended up finding out who pulled the prank. In response, the principal had the kids clean up the bubbles and paint and also clean the classrooms in the school. What intervention did the principal use? Okay. Obviously, trying to do some sort of punishment procedure. All right. What do the kids have to do? They have to clean up the bubbles, clean up the paint, and then also clean all the classrooms in the school. Okay. So they put bubbles and paint in the hall and on the sidewalk, but they also have to clean up the classrooms. So, in addition to cleaning up their mess, they have to do more. What intervention does this sound like? Is that A, restitutional overcorrection? Yes. Restoring the environment to a shape better than it was the way you found it is considered restitutional overcorrection. A looks like our best answer, probably is our answer. Let's read the rest. Positive practice and negative practice. What is positive practice overcorrection? Positive practice overcorrection is engaging in the correct behavior over and over again. Negative practice overcorrection is engaging in the incorrect behavior over and over again. These kids are not doing that. They're not making them fill the halls with bubbles and paint over and over again, right? They're simply making them restore the environment, okay? And then negative reinforcement. The principal doesn't want to reinforce this, okay? We're not sure what happens to the behavior. We can't say if it's reinforcement, it's whatever it is, okay? There's no indication this is negative reinforcement, but it does look like restitutional overcorrection. Remember, we're looking for the best answer possible. 29, Gavin is an excellent cook, but his girlfriend thinks he puts too many pinches of salt into his dishes. Gavin's girlfriend decides she will praise Gavin when he puts less than 4 pinches of salt into his dishes, but will not praise him when he puts 4 or more. What is Gavin's girlfriend attempting? If we look at our answer choices, this is some sort of differential reinforcement question, okay? Differential reinforcement, ask yourself, are we teaching a replacement behavior, yes or no? If we're teaching a replacement behavior, we're typically looking at DRAs and DRIs. If we're not, then we're looking at things like DROs, DRLs, DRHs, all right? And even DRDs, okay? In this case, are we teaching a replacement behavior? No, we still want salt. We just want less salt, okay? So we can eliminate C and D. Now, what is occurring here? The girlfriend wants Gavin to put less salt. She sets a criteria, okay? If he hits that criteria, she reinforces him. If he goes over it, she doesn't. Is this DRL or DRD? Well, the main difference here between DRL and DRD, they're very similar, but DRD typically has an interval component with it as well. So some sort of time component with it as well, okay? DRL is simply trying to reduce this behavior, okay, by going below a set criteria. So Gavin's girlfriend is attempting a DRL to reduce the amount of salt put into his dishes. And then 30, what would be the most appropriate way to describe self-management? Self-management is something we use in ABA. We have things like self-monitoring, okay, self-evaluation. And it's kind of a misnomer, right? Self-control is still having to do with the environment, but self-management is defined in a certain way. So self-management, the personal application of behavior change that produces change in behavior. Is it the personal application of behavior change that produces a desired change in behavior? Is it engaging in self-control? Or is it evaluating one's own performance? Well, we know it's not engaging in self-control because self-control in ABA is a misnomer. We don't typically refer to it as self-control because it's still the environment, okay? Evaluating one's own performance is part of self-management, but that is not what self-management is. Self-evaluation is D. So now we have A and B, the personal application of behavior change that produces change in behavior or a desired change in behavior. Well, B is our answer, okay? Self-management produces a desired change in behavior. If your behavior is changing, right, but it's not how you want it, are you really managing yourself? No. If you manage yourself, the change in behavior will be desired. All right, hope you enjoyed. I'll be back Saturday with more practice questions. Please like and subscribe. Any questions, please let me know. Check out our website, bcbastudy.com, for our practice exams and study guide. Other than that, work hard, study hard. See you soon.